Hello, everyone. I'm very lucky to have with us a water resource expert. We have with us Saumya Srivastava. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Saumya.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Mathur. It's a very pleasant experience for me. And it's also one of the firsts that I've been approached for. So I think I do not really know what I'm going to be talking about. I think I'll learn from what I'm saying and try to revise on the go. But it's going to be focused mainly on my educational journey, some of the water resources projects that I have worked on, what I've learned from them, and about my passion for betterment of water resources in India and other developing countries.
Well,
I completed I completed my PhD recently, and I'm now a postdoctoral fellow at Imperial College London on a British Council fellowship. And over here, I work on integrated water systems modeling. And before this, up until my PhD and also during my master's, I was mainly focused on working on the hydrology aspect of water resources, which means that I was not really considering the various anthropogenic or the human components when working out models for water resources. But once I came here at Imperial, I started learning how to incorporate various human elements of water cycle so as to make sure that whatever work we are doing, whatever research we are doing, it is actually helpful for a human impacted world, which is the case now.
okay.
Now, a brief introduction about me would be that I am from a small city in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India. I am from Gorakhpur, where I completed my school education. And that's where I got really passionate about, say, leadership. I used to stand for some elections at the school level. And that's also where I developed a passion to probably learn how to stand up for myself, also for others if required. So I think I take pride in trying to, I wouldn't call myself a rebel, but I always try to point if I feel something is not right. So that is one thing. And I'm very grateful for my school education. I was also very privileged. It was a very good school. So whatever I am today and whatever I talk about, I owe it to my teachers back in my school days. And after that, I was in Lucknow for my Bachelor of Technology. And there I studied civil engineering, which was a bit unusual because it wasn't like that was always my passion. But somehow, when it came to choosing my major for my bachelor's, I went with civil engineering. And one of the reasons was that my father was a civil engineer. And that's one thing he never wanted me to do. So I was like, okay, why not? Let me just go for it. Because Papa is saying, ye nahi karna, I was like, okay, maybe this is what I want to do. But that turned out to be a blessing in disguise, actually. And after hearing about his work in irrigation department, I grew some type of passion about water resources. And that time in Gorakhpur, this was the early 1900s, I would say, while I was growing up, that time I was seeing that there was some water management problem in the city. Even at my home, I used to see people just wasting a lot of water, and that used to bug me a lot, especially because during our school, when I was in class 8th, they introduced a subject called environmental environmental education. I think that was very helpful for me to really understand how intricate water management is. And I kind of started growing passionate, especially thankful to my teacher at the time. And I got to know that they have recently discontinued that subject. I don't know why. I felt it was the one subject that really taught me about environmental and water resources management. So that's where I really started growing passionate about water. And then there were also a few teachers at my college level during bachelor's who were excellent at what they did. There were also a lot of consultancy projects with governments in trying to design bridges or trying to optimize how much water should be, let me say, how much water should go downstream of a reservoir to ensure that the environmental quality of water downstream is managed well. That was again something very interesting for me because I also like plants and animals. So I wanted to know what can we do such that water is managed in a way that it is ecologically sustainable, not only for humans, but also say for other parts of the ecosystem, other living beings in the ecosystem. And my passion kept growing, and I went to for my master's to IIT Guwahati. And again, there my major was water resources management. And over there, with the kind of subjects that I got to study and my professors there, I was again very lucky. They were some of the best professors I've ever had. And I think my 2 years at Guwahati were one of the best years, two of the best years of my life. I learned a lot. And that was also a place which taught me a lot of compassion and how to involve everybody from different parts of India, some people from different parts of the world. So it really made me realize how important communities are and how every decision that we make for environment or for water, it should be bound to that community participation, and how important it is to take different perspectives into account whenever engineering anything related to water. And water is a state subject, it is a public subject. So if the states and the public is not involved in decision making in whatever modeling scientists are doing, that doesn't make sense. It's ultimately going to fail. So yeah, that's where I really learned how to work in a diverse team, how to build that feeling. We were all away from home, far away from our homes, probably for the first times for many of us. So yeah, that was the best time of my life. And over there, I was lucky to get a Charpak fellowship, for which I went to France for 1 semester. I was in the in a city on the west side of France. It's called Nantes. And again, over there, I was trying to optimize how much water should be released from the reservoirs to ensure environmental quality of water downstream of the river, especially for the life in the river, the aquatic life. And again, that experience in France, I got to travel a bit. Traveling is another passion of mine. I think that's probably the only thing I spend my money on. I have no other passions apart from food, but that's secondary. I love seeing new places. So I got to do that in France. And again, met very diverse people from different geographies, which again instilled that passion of working in diverse teams. And I think I've carried it on ever since. Once I completed my master's, there was again this feeling of what next. Luckily, I did not have to wait for it, and the uncertainty period for me was rather short. During my time in France, the first 2 months were a breeze. Like I was having the time of my life. But after those 2 months, the next 4 months, I wasn't very happy. Although I was traveling, I was trying out new foods, I was meeting new people. But somewhere deep down, I knew that for me, I would like to come back to India. And that's where my heart lies. And I'd already decided I wanted to go for a PhD, especially in the beautiful campus of Guwahati. I realized that a life in such a campus would be good for a person like me. And hence I decided, okay, this is the path that I want to take. I'll finish my PhD, and then I'll probably go for a postdoc. I'll join as an academician and some institute in India. That was the plan. I don't know how my plans have changed based on whatever experiences I've been having. So I will come to that in a bit. But yeah, at that time, that was my plan. And I appeared for an interview. I had a PhD offer from France, which I decided to let go of because I wasn't really happy living abroad for a PhD, which would take I would say X amount of years. You never really know when you're going to finish. And I think it doesn't really matter for PhDs. If there are any fellow PhDs listening to this, how much ever time it takes, once you get it, it's a lot of relief. And shorter PhDs or longer PhDs, it all depends on a lot of different circumstances. So I'll come to that. But yeah, that's when I decided that for PhD, I actually wanted to be in India. And I applied for a PhD at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and also at IIT Bombay. I got a call from Bombay. It was a joint PhD with Oxford. And I also got a call from IISc Bangalore. These are the only two places that I had applied for. And I was lucky I got calls from both of them. And then I went ahead with IISc Bangalore, which was actually a tough choice for me back then. But because of some happenings in my personal life, IISc Bangalore made more sense then. My husband was at my husband, then a very good friend who was also my colleague at IIT Guwahati, he got into IISc Bangalore as well. So we thought, okay, let's start building our lives together. So that was one of the main motivations why I chose Bangalore. Of course, IISc has its own reputation, and my professors also guided me for this to go for the same. I don't regret that decision because IISc has really been transformative for me. In terms of the research that I was doing, yes, but also in terms of how I evolved as a person there. And I think that's true for a PhD from anybody, anywhere. I think it has that power of really transforming you. It may not be monetarily feasible for many of us who have financial responsibilities. I was lucky I did not have many financial responsibilities from my family side, and therefore I think it was a bit easier for me. But it was tough on the academic part, and also I needed a lot of resilience. There were a lot of setbacks in my academic journey at IISc. My experiments failed. I wasn't getting good results. I was struggling to publish my papers. I still am struggling, by the way. Hopefully some of them will come through soon. And then writing my thesis, I was also dealing with a few medical problems at the time. And Bangalore's weather did not really suit me. I had severe pollen allergies there. But nevertheless, during my PhD at IISc, to support myself, I started giving tuitions to some students from school. And these were students of classes 10th, 11th, and 12th. Once I started that, I felt my life had found a new purpose. I loved teaching. And I had never studied bio before. One day, a student just asked me, "Ma'am, can you explain me the working of heart?" I said, "Okay, very well, why not?" And when she asked me that question, she was also one of my best students. I really wanted to help her.
Yeah.
I started reading about the human heart. I come from a family of doctors. My mother is a doctor, my brother is a doctor. So I guess it was somewhere deep within me. It was always there. It took me a long time to realize. But then to explain working of the heart to her, I started reading a lot. I got so crazy about it. I even read MBBS books. I
Ah,
asked my brother to scan all the chapters related to heart. And then I explained to my student the workings, and she was mind blown. She was like, "Wow, I never knew human body is so mysterious." And I was like, "Wow, I never knew I like bio so much." It's probably genetics, but yes, that's a side passion of mine.
well,
So
the heart
hopefully I
combines
will.
medicine and engineering. After all, it's a pump.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think our human bodies or bodies of living things are actually engineering marvels in
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got really interested in that. I also did a lot of teaching then during my PhD, biology, physics, chemistry, and math at the school level, of course. And that made me realize how passionate I am about teaching, actually. That's the one thing that I really, really love. I think it comes from all the great teachers that I've had. in my very, I would say, very privileged educational journey, I got to learn from some of the best minds in the country and abroad. And so during my PhD, this teaching work I was doing on the side, apart from that, I also founded a company. It's called AQRITY SciTech Private Limited. And I'm one of the co-founders. There are two other people who work with me, two other directors, and there's another co-founder from a different field. And we work on providing flood risk solutions using Earth observations and artificial intelligence. We have done a few consultancy projects, and we are developing our own tool now to automate all of this and kind of scale our product. And hopefully it will be helpful for insurance and reinsurance companies, because these type of natural disasters like floods, their occurrences are only increasing in
Yeah.
climate change. And many of the companies, farmers, they are trying to insure themselves for these disasters like droughts and floods. So we believe this product will have a lot of impact on ground in terms of providing parametric insurance to all of these different stakeholders who are very much impacted by floods in the face of climate change. And we want to do it using satellite observations just so that our product is more scalable and use AI in whatever capacity we can. But of course, it will be physics informed artificial intelligence, not a black box intelligence model. I won't go into details. I know I'm starting to sound technical, but no, I
No,
will
no, it's
stop
okay.
right there.
Please go into detail. I am following it very closely. I'm very interested. So go ahead. Don't worry about it. Let's hear it.
Okay. So this company was founded because we actually participated in a hackathon. This was the peak of the second wave of Corona. I was actually in a hospital when all of this had started. And I remember I was taking calls, wearing my oxygen mask. I was in the hospital for more than a month, and I had a really bad time fighting with the virus. But luckily, I'm still well and fine. So all turned out to be well. But I remember taking those meetings from the hospital, and I realized that this is something that I'm really passionate about. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been doing it from the situation and the location that I was at the time, bed number 3202. I still remember those days very vividly. But yeah, that it was a hackathon. It was a competition organized by the World Resources Institute, BlackRock, and Microsoft, where we had to develop solutions for predicting the inflows and the outflows from reservoirs in the Kaveri River Basin in India, which is a river basin in the southern part of India. And there we use a lot of predictive analytics. We try different models, and long short-term memory networks is what worked for us. So we used that for developing this reservoir forecasting dashboard, and it was hosted for a long time. It's inactive now. We are still developing the product. We were contacted by a few government organizations, and we realized, okay, this is something that the government needs. I think it'll be very helpful if we can do this properly, because it'll help in deciding the irrigation policy by the government. It'll help in deciding how much power is going to be generated by the power plant managers, and so on.
Mhm.
So, so that's where the company came about. So now I was working on three different things. I had my PhD, which was always which was always front runner for me. I never really got away from it. So that was my main thing. Apart from that, I was teaching on the side. And thirdly, I was also co-founder of a company, and we were developing our products. We failed. We had quite a few iterations on the idea itself. I think we have had some major setbacks when it comes to our company, but we are still in the process of reiterating, talking to stakeholders, and hopefully we will have something good out soon. And soon is subjective, so I do not know how soon.
Yeah.
And so while doing that, I was still very much sure that I wanted to be in academia. So I was also building my profile for the same with my research, with the kind of networking that I was doing. I was strategic there. And I applied for this fellowship in the last year of my PhD, which was the British Council Fellowship for a postdoctorate work at Imperial College London. And I was again lucky to get it. And right now I am at Imperial. And once I came here, it was a whole new world for me. I started questioning my own beliefs about my own career, and it's still a work in development, I would say. But I have realized that I want to move away from a purely academic based research, and I want to do something that has more to do with policy making, with involving all the different local stakeholders. And I want to move away from being a traditional hydrologist. And all of this insight, it comes from my work at a not-for-profit organization. It's called Well Labs. It's based in India, in Bangalore, and its director is Dr. Veena Srinivasan. And that's where I really learned how important it is to do integrated water systems modeling and to involve local stakeholders in any type of planning, in any type of water governance. So during my time at Well Labs, which was only for a little more than 4 months, I think I learned a lot of things. That was just before I started my postdoc. And some projects that I was involved in at Well Labs, it had a lot to do with transforming rural areas in terms of livelihoods, in terms of water, and all of this policy making, or I would say informing policy, was being done with water conservation, with water management as one of the aspects, but there was also a lot of rural aspiration, the ecological constraints, the economics that are very important for farmers. So they were trying to do all of this, keep taking all of these into account. And that was very important for me because I had been a purely academic researcher. I had never looked at applied research before. So here I was quite happy because I was using my academic research knowledge, the techniques that I had learned, the research directions that I very well knew how to formulate. And I was actually using that to do something to help people on the ground. There was a project, I remember, it was about a water conservation structure in villages of Maharashtra. And there we went for field work and talked to a lot of local farmers there. We asked them questions about how the water conservation structures are actually helping them. And there I learned that it's not just us scientists who are worried about water. Local people are equally worried, and probably more because they are the ones suffering the most. And very often, whatever scientific knowledge we were applying into building our models, these models are not really taking into account what's actually happening on the ground, the type of situation that farmers are actually facing. Very simple problems like whatever water conservation structure you have made, it's silted on the top. So water
Yeah.
is not really helping the recharge at all. Or problems like there is water logging on the ground. Now, our model might not be able to model that accurately. But when we went there, we saw there was a lot of water logging. It was all black cotton soil. Water was not able to reach the areas underground. So there was not a lot of recharge happening, and there was also a lot of crop spoilage. So these are some things that our models were not taking into account.
Yeah.
And there it became very clear that if you do not include these local insights into your modeling process, into your academic research, the research itself is incorrect. So whatever policy that research is informing, that is incorrect too. And it will probably not have any impact when it's actually implemented on ground by the governments, by the local NGOs, and so on and so forth. There was one more learning that we had from that experience. Farmers are very, very receptive to anything that comes from their local NGOs. So if we go as scientists and try to talk to farmers, they are really going to question, like, who are you? Why are you interfering? Like, we have our local organizations working for us. We would rather talk to them. We would rather listen to any advice that comes from them. That was another big learning, that these local NGOs that are doing the work with the panchayats at the village level, at the gram level, they are very important to be included in any of this process. And so after my stint at Well Labs, which was rather short, but a very big learning curve for me, I then came to London for my postdoc. And here I have been applying those principles now. Whatever research I'm doing now, I make sure it's not purely theoretical, it is more applied and it is more integrated in terms of modeling the water systems of any city. When I say integrated modeling, what I mean is earlier, I was only looking at what's happening on the rural level, what's happening on a catchment which doesn't have any human impact. What I do here is I work on hydrology, purely non-anthropogenic hydrology. There's no human impact. But apart from that, I also consider the feedbacks from wastewater treatment plants, the feedbacks from sewer networks, the feedbacks from, say, rivers in terms of water quality, wetlands, ponds. So now what I do is I do this integrated modeling. I take into consideration the fluxes in all the different parts of the water cycle, especially for catchments that have human impact, which are the most of the catchments on the planet today.
Yeah.
So, and now once I came here, I realized that maybe I do not want to be an academic, a purely theoretical researcher. Maybe I want to be somewhere where I can make real impact on ground. And so I have been networking with people, I have been looking at opportunities. And once my stint here gets over, or even before it gets over, I'm going to start applying to different organizations that I feel are doing groundbreaking research in this field. I would like to be in the R&D sector. Yeah, of course, if any teaching opportunity or any academic opportunities come by, I will always be happy to collaborate, but that's not the sole focus of my career now. I
Okay.
think that's one big learning from me
Well,
during the whole process.
you have accomplished a lot. I think it would be good if you could give some tips to younger people.
Right. For me, the thing that works is that I'm very resilient. So I have had a lot of setbacks in my academic journey. It may not sound like that, but especially in terms of research, there are things that do not work out, but they help you learn. So always keep learning from those failures and always aspire for more. If you do not aspire for more, you will end up with lesser than what you are capable of. So I think that saying is very true, and I truly believe in it. If you aim for the star, you will probably end up with moon. So I think that's very very important for me. Resilience, always setting the aim high, and thirdly, never forgetting yourself, who you are as a person. That should always be kept in mind whenever you are planning your career and whenever you are thinking about what next. You do not have to do it like a machine, like we are not robots. We have to consider our own personal aspirations and make them in line with our professional aspirations. So, whatever hobbies you have, one should always pursue their hobbies. I have learned it the very hard way, but I do everything now. I try to enjoy life to the fullest. I also work as much as I can, but I do not forget myself in the process.
So, what are the
So,
hobbies?
like I said, I love traveling. So,
Yeah. So, where
that's
have you
something.
been?
Right now, so during my PhD, also I was traveling. I think I was traveling a lot by normal standards, but I was seeing places in and around Bangalore. But ever since I came here, I have been exploring other places in the UK. The South Coast is what I really like. It's only been 5 months since I got here. So the South Coast of France, different cities there, then architectural places like Stonehenge, like Bath, where the Romans first came when they invaded the UK. And some other countries have had a lot of misadventures as well. But yeah, learning from each misadventure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to add here?
I think that's it from my side. That's who I am. I think I just spoke about who I am.
Okay, good. So then let's end it here.
Sure.
And let me say bye to the viewers. I'll be back with another young person or an expert or a young expert like Saumya, whichever way it works out. Bye, everybody.